Hey, everybody. So, welcome to the From Chaos to Clarity Unleash Your Business Potential live Q&A, also known as the after party. This is the party after the podcast episode. And so, if you guys did not get an opportunity to hear episode 43, where Brody and I talked about um, funding, and we spent most of our time on the episode talking about his role as the community affairs officer with Simmons Bank and the grants that Simmons Bank provides for nonprofits and things like that. Make sure that you guys watch that episode. It is currently on our YouTube channel and all of our podcast platforms. But if you want to find out where all of our podcast platforms and stuff are, just go to our website, gipfinancials.com. And if you scroll down to like near the halfway, you'll see the whole podcast, little dilly dad. And you can click on the episode, download it, whatever you need to do. Okay. So, but tonight we're going to talk about Brody's funding journey as an entrepreneur. So, Brody is actually one of our clients, and his business is One Bull. Why you shaking your head? Why you shaking your head, bro? Don't start that today. We're in
Yes,
front of
ma'am. I'll do right.
you. Gonna be good. No,
Yes.
no. You like San Antonio's little boy Jabari, be like, you gonna be good. Oh. Well, Brody has a business called One Bull LLC, and he's doing some amazing work in the real estate space. So, Brody, just tell us a little bit about what you're doing with One Bull.
I got started, it was about 8 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, a little background. I was a mortgage originator for 16 years. I was doing home loans for the longest. So I was helping people become renters turn into homeowners and investors make purchases. So I was like, if they can do it, I can do it. So it just started initially with a Google search. I went on realtor.com and did a search for houses for sale between $0 and $10,000. And I found a house for sale for 5,000. So went to my church member who's a real estate agent. I was like, hey, I want to buy that house. And she's like, all right, what you want to offer? I said 4,000. She's like, all right. So she submitted it. She's like, well, the seller came back and said, we need your highest and best offer. I was like, great, 4,000. And so 30 days later, we closed. So I
Yeah.
literally bought my first property for $4,000. I took $10,000 put into the house, and it had all the finishes, siding, new. Well, my wife at that time, she and I, we went in and did a lot of the sweat equity. We busted out the walls and got everything ready for a contractor to come in. We took care of as much as we could before we having to hire the professionals. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, $10,000 later, the house was moving ready,
Wow.
and since everything was pretty much cash, we made $750 a month rent since that time.
Wow.
So that was the entry into my journey into becoming an investor or developer.
Wow. Love that. You invested basically what 14,000, so it's 4,000 for the house,
14,000,
10 in rehab, and you getting 750 a month back cash.
and it's still paying for itself. No note.
Man.
It's That's how I got started. My second project was a house that I bought from a friend of mine. It's by the University of Memphis. He was trying to raise money so he could start another business, and he had some houses that he just couldn't manage anymore. So I made him an offer.
Mm-hmm.
To keep the story short, bought it for 50. Took out a $35,000 rehab loan from United Housing. Found a really good contractor. They got the house renovated and rehabbed, and we redid everything. Floors, we added central heat and air. We did the whole kitchen, the bathroom, for 35, and then sold it for 135.
Mm.
And my intention with that was to only sell it to an owner occupant, somebody that was going to live in the house, not an investor, not a corporation. And it worked out. I was able to find somebody that used down payment assistance. That's really one of my most proud projects. And that's the one that gave me the seed money to take on a few other ventures. And
Yeah.
that's how I got my start. It wasn't a short road. It was strategic. I think that I was blessed to find those two opportunities just to get started. But
Mm-hmm.
from here, sky's the limit.
I love it. Love it, love it, love it. So as you're talking about One Bull and your opportunities, not only to access, those properties, but also for the funding.
Mhm.
Let's talk more about like your first, for lack of a better term, like real funding, loan process. Can you walk us through
Yeah,
that?
that's the one that I'm working on now. Excuse me. Me and my business partner, her name is Jackie Metcalf. She and I was a lender. I was a mortgage guy at the time. She was a full-time real estate broker. She owned a company called Property Shopping in South Haven, Mississippi, and she was my number one agent. I was her number one lender, so the relationship was already built in. So we like, hey, what's up? So we found some properties down on Barton Street, which is right at Third and Crump, and we mixed money and bought the four houses. And the funding journey was bumpy. I started off by going to one of my guys. His name is Marshall. He's in Nashville. He owns a CDFI, Community
Mhm.
Development Finance Institution, called the Housing Fund. His organization makes loans available for people to buy and renovate and develop properties.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, it didn't work out. No, just keep it brief.
Mhm.
So we explored lenders and landed on iBank. We both again provided our financials, gave them all the information that they needed, and at the time, the seller of those four houses was doing seller financing, so he
Mhm.
was allowing us to make monthly payments in order to acquire the houses. There were four of them. They were 27,000 a piece, and we were
Right.
just making monthly notes. However, the seller was not a good dude. He was not a good citizen. He wasn't a good dude.
Mhm.
So to get from under him, we scraped up our pennies and nickels and we bought him out so that we didn't have to play by his rules and all the changes and just foolishness that he was bringing to us. So now the houses are free and clear. So now we need money to rehab. That's when we went to iBank. We said we got our estimates. We estimated that it would cost $60,000 per house to get them demolished and built back up. And fortunately, we were able to make that happen. The day that we finished the second house, my partner passed away. So here I am now with two houses complete, two houses that still need rehab, all this debt that now falls on me. And I truly thought that it was going to bankrupt me. I thought that I was going to have to sell my own house to pay off these debts and I didn't know what to expect. But thankfully, prayerfully, we were able to work out a situation where I refinanced the first two houses.
Mhm.
And now I'm on the cusp of finishing up the next two. Again, that was a huge speed bump because she was a dear friend, somebody I talked to every day. And to lose your partner is
Right.
it's a major blow. And then we had to unwind everything, had to dissolve the
Yeah.
corporation. I had to appease her children. Actually, I didn't have to per the contract, but since we were so close, I wasn't just gonna walk away and not give
Yeah.
them anything. So had to just kind of unwind everything, build myself back up in order to be able to finish the last one. So now
Mhm.
two houses are complete. Um, the rent from those two houses more than pays for the note that 120,000 because it was $60,000 for two houses. It pays
Mhm.
for that, and that's it. Ready to move forward with the next phase.
I love that. I love that story. Just so you can hear just the authenticity in that, and just even as an entrepreneur, because I'll be honest, Brody, even like in my situation, just being a full-time entrepreneur, and just
Mm-hmm.
like we had, a tree hit our house like a month after I left, Vision Prep, that whole ordeal. It just going through those, financial ebbs and flows. It's just like, how can I be, a financial guru and having to go through this, that, and the third, right? And
Yeah.
it's just a part of, to be honest, that's just part of being an entrepreneur, and just, life is going to life. But just know that there are always going to be resources available to you. Well, especially like for me, like I was talking on another podcast earlier today, like the Greater Memphis Financial Empowerment Center. That's probably one of the best kept secrets in Memphis, right? It's free for every, citizen in Shelby County if you need like guidance on your budgeting, credit, things like that, and it's absolutely free, right? And I just had to kind of think of it like if you're an entrepreneur, you need people on your team outside looking in, experts to give you, perspective that you can't see because you're blinded by all the stuff that's going on, in your house and in your life and things like that. So I think that's really important for our entrepreneurs that are on, and shout out to everybody that's on, for y'all to be able to hear, even, the funder, the mortgage expert still has to go through things just
Oh
as an
yeah,
entrepreneur, right?
yeah. I'm still a victim to what if, because I do
Hmm.
expect to lose my partner, but you do have to be prepared. You have to have a plan and a backup plan at the same time. You got to go in with the backup plan for that just in case situation.
You
So
have to go
go
in
ahead
with the
and build it
backup
in.
plan. Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about, because like every day we don't really get a chance to really talk about partnerships a lot.
We don't get to talk about what?
Partnerships.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah. So can you just tell us a little bit about like some of the best practices that you and Miss Jackie had
Ooh,
before, as you guys were planning to, get into those properties?
man, I tell you, contracts are the best thing for a partnership. Sonia, I love you dearly. You like family to me. But if we're gonna mix money and do business, we're gonna have a contract.
You
We're
got
not
to.
doing my word, your word. We're gonna have an
Mhm.
equal agreement in writing, stamped, signed, sealed.
Got
Y'all
to.
think that sounds? You may think it sounds cold, but I promise you, it's the best thing for a
Uh,
friendship and any kind of business relationship. Have the
Absolutely.
understanding, talked out, have a third party, neutral third party, confirm each of your intentions and put it in writing. Seriously, that's number one. Two, we figured out who was going to play roles. Like Jackie, she was good with tracking the finances. I was connected to the community, so I was the one that was out there finding the contractors and the builders, and I had those type of relationships. So we made it work, and we kind of had a checks and balances system where like Jackie, what do you think about this? Like, you got to trust your partner. It was honestly about as close as a marriage for real, because you don't mix money with friends like that, not big money, and that's where we were.
Right. Absolutely. Did y'all have an attorney?
Yes, we did. We had attorneys. We had insurance professionals. Um, we both used our circles to review documents and then brought feedback back to the table. So we worked it together. We played to each other's strengths.
I love it. I love it. What
Yeah.
type of financial documentation did y'all have to send to iBank for the funding?
It was 2 years of bank statements, excuse me, tax returns.
Mm-hmm.
And then they wanted to see what cash reserves we had. So like on the loan, we had to do 20% down for the rehab work. So we had to show that each of us had that money up front before we could even really start the application. Well, that was part of the application process.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't share our bank statements with each other, but we did turn both of us did turn our stuff into the bank, plus
Mm-hmm.
our 2 years tax returns, and that's where it started.
Got you. So was there also an element of like personal guarantee that was required as well?
We used the houses as collateral since we went ahead and paid them off. So that
Good.
was our fallback.
Good. Love
Yeah.
that. Right. And so then you and Jackie also had to create like a legitimate like partnership entity as well.
Well, not at first.
Not at first.
Initially, we were going to do a joint venture because I already had
Okay.
my LLC, she had hers. But the way that the properties were set up, it was set up as one, basically like one parcel with four houses on it.
Mm-hmm.
So in order for us to buy all four, we had to form a completely separate LLC. So that's when we
Mm-hmm.
formed Prestige Holdings. So we
Gotcha.
had to create one LLC where we did have one account and shared everything. We split all the costs right down the middle. The majority of it, like the way the construction loan works, is that we put the money up front. We get, let's say, 25% of the work done. We go to the bank, they inspect it, and then they reimburse us. It was a reimbursable
Mhm.
draw. So every time that we put money in and got reimbursed, we would both just kind of manage that to make sure that we stayed on task. And it
Mhm.
was just that's how we managed it. We both just kind of kept an eye on things. And now Jackie, she had a flair for creativity. She loved to spend. Me, I'm like, that's cute, but
Right.
So, so that's how we balance each other out.
I
I love
love
her
it.
style. She's got excellent taste, but man, taste costs.
Hmm. Right. Exactly. And especially, you do have to take into consideration, where the houses are and what's going to sell and because
Correct.
you want to make sure that the biggest thing is the turnover,
I'm
right?
really glad you said that because initially we went in with the mindset that we were going to retain these houses. Once those bills started rolling in and there were some things that weren't working out for her, houses weren't selling, the market was changing. She's like,
Hmm.
Brody, we got to sell them. I'm like, I want to sell. That ain't what we started. That's not what we agreed on.
Hmm.
So, yeah, plans changed. And that was something that we didn't agree on. I wanted to hold them because I'm thinking long term. She
Hmm.
needed to cash out because she got bills to pay. So yeah, that
Hmm.
was a tough conversation.
Absolutely. And so, but like now, that you have all four of the houses,
Hmm.
has your long-term plan changed?
I'm still keeping them
You still keeping
because
them?
I'm on the verge of starting the next two, probably within the next 2 weeks. I'm gonna go
Mm-hmm.
ahead and demolish the next two, and maybe within 60 to 90 days, I'll have those rehabbed and on the market. Well, available for rent.
Mm-hmm. Got you. I love it. Love it.
Yep.
All right. So I told you guys that we were only gonna be on about 30 minutes or so, but just looking at the participant list, we don't have any nonprofits on here per se. Most of we had a couple of our GIP Academy folks on here, and some of or one of our other clients are on here as well, and a couple of our GIP Academy supporters. So thanks everybody for just your support. But just let's talk a little bit more, Brody, just about, and you can use this as your entrepreneur hat or your banker
Bank
hat.
it. All right.
But let's just talk about some of the, best practices when applying for funding overall.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The main thing when you approach a banker, we're really only looking at the numbers. So you don't need a long, drawn out 15, 20 page business plan. Honestly, 1 or 2 pages is really it. Tell your story and make it make sense. We want to know how you're going to pay for the project, how you're going to pay for it if the project doesn't fund itself, and if you have any guarantors, if there's a somebody that says I got them in case you don't.
Mm-hmm.
That's the long and short of it. It's really not a complex formula. Like for example, we went in with the process of saying we're going to need $120,000 to rehab these houses. Once they're renovated and we start paying that loan back, that note was initially like $2,200, but
Mm-hmm.
then we refinanced it to permanent financing, and it dropped from 2,200 a month down to 1,300. The rent on each house was 1,100 per month. So with 2,200 a month income from rent on a $1,300 note, we were able to show that we could pay the note and still have a cushion in case somebody slips, or we could just be aggressive. If we found a really good tenant and just pay that debt off as quickly as possible. Try to get it knocked out within 5 or 6 years versus 15.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really it. It's good to show reserves. If you got fallback money, you may not even need it. So if you got like a 401k, IRA, um,
Mm-hmm.
insurance premiums, what am I thinking, son? Well,
Insurance
insurance.
policy. Mm-hmm.
If you got any kind of long-term savings, CDs, um, yeah, if you got money to show as reserve funds, that's really going to help strengthen your case.
Okay, gotcha. And even like with the insurance, are you just talking about like the
Like
index
the face
universal
value.
lives,
Yeah,
or it could be a term also?
I don't know about a term,
I
but
was gonna
something that
say
has
if it's
cash value.
okay. Hmm.
Yeah, like if you needed to tap into it, you can borrow against
Gotcha.
it. Oh,
Okay.
that's another thing. If you do use your retirement funds like an IRA or 401k, instead of withdrawing that money, try to borrow against it. Borrow the money from yourself because it's less expensive
Yeah.
and you're going to avoid any kind of penalties. If you just
Yes.
do a straight draw, like if you let's just
Mm-hmm.
say you need 100,000 and it's in your 401k, if you just go in there and snatch it out, they're going to hit you for about 20% in
Yeah.
fees. But if you borrow against it, you can just pay it back over time. So that's just words of wisdom to borrow money from yourself instead of just withdrawing it.
Absolutely. And a lot of times from what I've heard, I haven't done this myself, but I've heard that the interest rate on you borrowing from yourself from your retirement is cheaper than
Way
trying to
cheaper.
get,
Yeah,
something traditionally.
that's correct.
Absolutely. So yeah, just make sure that you guys take that into consideration as well. So if you guys have any questions, I see that Latasha's on here. That's our accounting manager with GIP. So I want to make
Hey,
sure that
Latasha, Tori, Robin, Ruthie, Carol Smith. What's up,
yeah.
y'all?
Yeah. So if y'all got any questions, feel free. You can do raise your hand, put it in the chat, and we'll make sure that we are available to answer any of your questions that you have. Um, there was something else I was gonna ask you. Oh, you know what, bro? Tell everybody about April 19th and the event that you're gonna have at New Direction.
All right. April 19th is the road to home ownership. We've got a pretty big lineup. We have GMFEC, which Sonia referenced earlier. They're going to be doing. We have 6 of their counselors showing up there. They're going to be doing on the spot, on site credit reviews. So we're encouraging people to go to annualcreditreport.com, pull at least one of your credit bureaus, and when you have that one-on-one time with your counselor, you get 10 minutes, and what you don't get reviewed in that time, you can schedule an appointment. And the beautiful thing about GMFEC is that they stay with you year round for 12 months. They'll get your budget on right. They'll tell you what bills need to be paid off. They'll get your credit straight. So within a year, you'll see your credit score jump at least 100 points. So that's one aspect of it. Two, the city of Memphis down payment assistance. I've invited them to come because they say that year after year, millions of dollars are left on the table because we don't access it. There
Mhm.
is free money out here in these streets for you to use for down payment. Generally, if you're a low income individual or you're buying in a low to moderate income area, they will give you 10% of the sales price up to $10,000 towards the purchase of a home. So they'll be on site. On top of that, me and my bank partners, there are 16 banks that have been invited. We all have in house mortgage products. I know y'all hear about FHA, VA, conventional. The loans that I'm talking about are the ones that the bank owns themselves, where they're specifically aimed at low and moderate income individuals. So we'll be all there. My partner will be there. Her name is Alex Matlock. She'll be there to do on-site pre-approval. So if you want to get pre-approved right there on the spot and start shopping, you've got that option. We'll
Wow.
also have MHA, Memphis Housing Authority,
Mhm.
where they'll be showing you how to use, for those that might have a Section 8 voucher, you can use your Section 8 voucher to use towards buying a home instead of just renting a property. So honestly, y'all, everything that you need will be on site in that event. It's from 10 to 1. The first session is from 10 to 11:30, and then we'll do the second session from 11:30 to 1. We will have food, we will have door prizes, and everything is free.
Yes, and GIP will be in the house as well. We will be there. I'll be there doing something. I don't know what, but I'll be doing something to still
Push-ups.
support. Yep, jumping jack. I'll be on the microphone.
I got you.
On the microphone. So that date again is April the 19th.
April 19th, New Direction Church. I think it's 6120 Winchester,
Mm-hmm.
right there, Hickory Hill and Ridgeway
Yep,
in
Hickory Hill and
Winchester.
Ridgeway. Mm-hmm.
In the
Absolutely.
morning. Matter
Mm-hmm.
of fact, go on Eventbrite. You should be able to pre-register.
Okay. Gotcha. And I'll make sure to add that to our website as well.
Okay.
Put that on there as
Thank
well.
you.
Yeah, absolutely. You get my post-it note because I mess around and forget. I gotta write it down. Um, but yeah, and so y'all, when I tell you Memphis, can't nobody tell me that Memphis is not resourceful. I feel like we got too much stuff at times
We do.
because it's like we got too much stuff, but there's
Yeah.
no reason why you can't at least get started with whatever you needed that you want to do, to be quite honest. And we also talked about self-employed individuals, right? And doing what you need to do documentation wise and financially to get yourself right for home ownership, because it's no joke. Everybody that's on here has probably already heard Latasha and I talk about this. Like, we are not the financial people uh, to get you the most refunds, right? Your tax return. That's not what we do. we're here because most of our clients are businesses, and we're here to help you reduce your tax liability as much as humanly possible. What that means is that we understand that when you pay and submit your tax filing, you're going to have a profit, a positive number on your Schedule C. Because if you are full-time, self-employed individual such as myself, right, I can't go from this point forward with a loss, right? Especially if I'm trying to acquire assets and things like that, or if I'm trying to acquire funding for GIP financials, right? I have to have a source, a tax planner such as Latasha Phillips, right? To be like, hey, Latasha, this is what I'm trying to do for the next 4, 5, 10 years. How can I make sure that my numbers are right for that? And she can walk me and you guys, through that as well. But we did talk about, self-employment, and if you're trying to get a house, this is the time now. You need to be getting your numbers in order with that. So anything you want to add about that, Brody? You on mute, dude.
It's always the right time to buy. A lot of times, we want to try to time the market and try to catch the dip on interest rates, but just going to get in while you can. You can make it up other ways versus trying to negotiate an interest rate. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the sooner the better.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I see that we got Stantasia on. So Stantasia is the staff accountant for One Bull. So she's on. Yeah, so I want to give her a shout out as well. So y'all, do you have any questions about, Brody's, funding experience? You get a little ear up there. Uh, y'all got any questions about self-employment or just, anything? Let's see. Oh, Latasha said that interest could help you itemize on your taxes as well.
It's taxable
Absolutely.
mortgage interest.
Yep, mortgage interest. Absolutely. Right. So this is why, shameless plug, this is why you need to be a part of GIP Academy. Right.
Yeah,
One of the things, the best, nobody's teaching financial literacy to entrepreneurs like we are. You can put us against anybody. I can pretty much stand on that.
yeah,
Right. And this is why we also want to make sure that you guys had extra, time with our guests by not just doing the podcast episode, but also doing the live Q&A. And thank y'all for your patience because the last couple where we were live on YouTube, they were child, the tech was taking. We're gonna keep doing it on, on Zoom and then just
that's
posting
cool.
the video on YouTube afterwards. But this is why, because once you're in this intimate space, you can, get to know these experts. And Brody is like reachable, right? Especially if you're in the greater Memphis area, I promise you, you're gonna be able to, you're gonna find him in some way, shape, or form out here in these Memphis streets doing community work.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm
So
easy to find.
nobody
Yeah,
very easy to find. So it's nobody that we have on here that you can't obtain and talk to, one on one, right? But this is why we have GIP Academy because not only do you have access to us, but also to our network, right? So Brody is definitely within our partnership network. We are heavily, resourced with a lot of good, what I call money friends, right? So Brody is one of our money friends. Well, like I said, GIP Academy is $97 a month for those. Well, we have two of our GIP Academy folks on here already, Tori and Miss Gillian. Um, you guys, this is definitely worth the investment and it's also tax deductible. If you're doing your own bookkeeping, you still need access to folks throughout the year, right? So with me, Latasha, Tay, Heather, and Heather was a resource of Broadest. Heather's doing an amazing job. Amazing job. Right. So love Heather to death. Just great asset to our squad. But yeah, but this is the heart of what we do and why we do it. Right. And y'all keep GIP in your prayers because tomorrow we are turning in a grant application with
yes,
Tennessee SCORE, the Future Forward Innovation Grant.
love
And
it.
so we are applying for funding to start a bookkeeping apprenticeship
Awesome.
program. It is time because we sure needed our businesses needed, right? Because there's too many businesses out here that can't get what they need just because they just need a hand up with accessing their numbers and their financials. So we're going to be the answer to that.
Very
Um,
good.
yeah, so y'all keep us in your prayers. The grant application is due tomorrow.
Gotcha.
So Yeah, for sure. But if anybody else have any questions, comments, it is 8:01. So I want to make sure that we give Brody his time back. Um, but if not, hold on. I see something in the chat. Let's see. Hold on. Okay, that was Latasha's comment. All right, but Brody, do you have any closing remarks?
No, just live fearlessly, take a chance, a calculated chance. But also, if you need help, please reach me, Sonia. Happy to help. You see, I was vulnerable in telling my story. So there's no secrets in this thing. We actually need to have more of these conversations where
Yeah,
we undress and just say what it is. Let me make the
a-
mistake so that you don't have to.
absolutely, absolutely. So how can I get in touch with you, Brody?
My work email is Brody, Brody dot Wamble, WAMBLE at simmonsbank.com. And my phone number is 901 282 9698.
All right, you guys, you heard it here first. So thank you guys for hanging out with us. Once this buffers and does all this good buffering and stuff, we're gonna put this replay on YouTube and share it. Brody, thank you again for taking the time out for hanging out with us. Our next podcast episode for any of you that are like, oh, I don't know about QuickBooks, we are gonna do a web episode with Jackie Mercer of Baldwin Financial Services. Thank you, brother, for adding that information in the chat. So our next on the 17th, Jackie Mercer is going to be doing an introduction to Wave, to the Wave accounting software platform. So you don't want to miss that. That's going to be off the chain next Thursday. All right. So y'all have a good evening and make sure that you get Brody's information. I'll make sure to put it also in the description of the replay as well. Brody, I'm going to let you get back to it.
All right. Thank you.
Y'all have a good evening. Take care.
Good night, y'all.
All right. Good night.